Hello, this is Mary Colordita, and I'm looking at how to know God's will. It's really not very hard. He tells us His will in His Word. And when we pray, we get impressions. We have His Word that comes back to us. You know, His sheep know His voice. And if you're His sheep or wanting to be His sheep, you just need to hear His voice through His Word and through prayer. Today I'm looking at Ezra chapter 4. And once again, I'd encourage you, read it first on your own. Pray and ask the Lord, Lord, what should I learn about you through this testimony? So first I'm going to read it. And this is Ezra 4, verses 1 through 5. When the enemies of Judah and Benjamin heard that the exiles were building a temple for the Lord, the God of Israel, they approached Zerubbabel and the family heads and said to them, "Let us build with you, for we seek your God just as you do. And we have sacrificed to him since the days of Esarhaddon, the king of Assyria, who had us brought here." But Zerubbabel, Jeshua, and the rest of the family heads of Israel answered them, "It is not your responsibility to build with us a house for our God, but we alone must build it for the Lord, the God of Israel, as King Cyrus of Persia has commanded us." Thereupon the people of the land set out to intimidate and dishearten the people of Judah, so as to keep them from building. They also bribed counselors to work against them and thwart their plans during the remaining years of Cyrus, king of Persia, and until the reign of Darius the first, the king of Persia. Now in between Cyrus there was a king. After Cyrus was Xerxes the first, also known as Ahasuerus, and after him was Artaxerxes the first, and then after him was Darius the first, the kings of Persia. Now I'm going to read a summary of Ezra 4, verses 6 through 24. During the reign of Artaxerxes, a letter was sent to him, saying, "If the Jews rebuild," quote, "this rebellious and evil city," end quote, of Jerusalem, "they will rebel, and the king will lose that part of the kingdom west of the Euphrates." So the king sent orders to stop the work until a further decree is issued by him. As soon as a copy of the king's letter was read in the land of Canaan, or Israel, whatever it's called now, that part of, it's the land of Abraham, they went in haste to the Jews in Jerusalem and stopped their work by force of arms. This inaction, stopping the work, lasted until the second year of Darius the first, the king of Persia. So, what we have here is that the Jews, remember, the Lord raised up Cyrus, the king of Persia, to send back the Jews to rebuild the temple and the city. And he said anyone could go who wanted to, and anyone who wanted to support them of this land, of the Jews, could do so. So this commission was given to the Jews, both to go and build and both to support. So this is what's happening. But then the people of the land around Jerusalem, they go and say, well, let's help you build Jerusalem. And it says here, let us help you to rebuild the city and the temple. Now you would think that was a wonderful thing for the people, and they said that we worship your God as well, and we have done so for a long time. It says here that, for we seek your God just as you do. We follow your God. We worship and sacrifice to your God. And we want to help you. But why do we know right away that this is deceitful? Because it calls them the enemies. They are the enemies of Judah and Benjamin. And right away, the fruit of their actions is deceit, intimidation, bribery, lies. They rise up against them. So they were, if they were truly of God, they would have said, oh yeah, we understand, that makes sense. You know, may the Lord bless you. And they would have agreed that yes, they should not help. The exiles didn't want their help, and they should have agreed and said okay, but they didn't. So their fruit of their actions and their words prove that they were enemies. And this continues during the reign of, they intimidate and harass them during the reign of Cyrus and during the reign of Xerxes. And then during the reign of Artaxerxes, they get a letter to the king of Persia saying, you know, these guys are going to rebel against you. And so he issues that decree to stop building. And as soon as that letter comes, they go by force and they stop the Jews from rebuilding the city and the temple until King Darius. So what's that tell us? Okay, that tells us that the Zerubbabel and the heads of Judah were faithful to not take aid from the world, from those who are deceitful. Not take aid and help and supplies. They were faithful to the Lord, and they recognized that these people were subversive. This is really what happens in our churches. When people come along and say, hey, we'll help you build your church and we'll make it faster and better and blah, blah, blah. And we worship the same God. We worship your God. We're Christians. And yet the fruit of their words and their actions are deceitful and subversive. They are enemies of the Lord. And they preach a different gospel. In the New Testament, the epistles, they warn against this. Jesus warned against deceitful rulers and teachers of the law who teach deceit. So that tells us to be wary and not be eager to accept help and advice and what's that word when they donations or investments from those who are not the Lord's. So we need to be careful here. Churches can easily become subverted, just like the Jews who were rebuilding Zerubbabel and the rest of them who were rebuilding the city of Jerusalem and the temple could have been subverted very easily, but they held fast. And they used as a rationale what Cyrus told us to build it. He gave the command and commission mission to us, not to the people of the land. And so that was, they held on to that. We must hold on to that in terms of building the church, to hold on to the truth of Christ, the doctrine of Jesus, and not promote a false doctrine or false Christ. So that's what I kind of think this is why it's relevant to us. So pray and ask the Lord yourself, help me to be aware of false doctrines and false Christs that seek to come in and subvert through, what's the word it is in the New Testament, cleverness of speech and monies and all those other things. Thanks for watching. Pray always. Subscribe if you like.